everything about these homes is trying to is geared towards trying to be affordable.
All right, welcome to another episode of The Den. I'm Eric Whitener, broker, owner of the Knox Real Estate Group. And today, special guest is John Cook with, is it Cook Brothers or Cook Bros? We're going to start off with a lot of controversy here.
Yeah, it's Cook Bros.
Cook Bros.
So it definitely is Cook Bros, yes.
Okay.
If you say Cook Brothers in my office, people are going to look at you with a side eye.
Awesome. All right. John Cook with Cook Bros Home. Man, I'm really excited. I've been wanting to have you on the podcast for a little while. One, because being in the real estate space, I see a lot of conflict between homeowners and developers. And I want to kind of like get into that. And I know for a fact you'll shoot me straight. I want to get your side of what it's like in this business, because I know when I say things, when I try to give reason for why we need more development, it's pretty common for people to try to dismiss what I have to say because I'm a real estate agent.
Yeah.
You just want to sell homes.
Yes. It's self-serving. It appears self-serving.
It appears self-serving. When the reality is I see the struggle that home buyers have in today's market, which is very different than what it was, say, pre-COVID.
Yes.
So let's just get started a little bit. Tell me a little bit about you, Cook Bros. I'd like to know a little bit of your history.
I'll give you the elevator pitch. If I give you the entire pitch, it's going to take a long time.
Fair.
So yeah, Cook Bros. We're 20 years in business this year. So we've been in business since 2004. My brother and I are transplants, so I kind of feel that transplant thing that everybody gets moving here.
Yeah.
We're originally from Central Illinois, middle of a cornfield, family farm. We raised 100 head of Angus beef cattle. We had some crops, and we did a lot of hay baling, square bales and round bales. So, grew up very blue collar. My dad had several different businesses, and he was always remodeling something. So that kind of, I guess, is where we got the itch to do building, if you will. But yeah, my brother and I went off to college, and we were going to get done at the same time, and decided we wanted to go into real estate. And our original thought was to just buy duplexes, single families, triplexes, and fix them up and rent them out or flip them. Mm-hmm. This was in the early 2000s when we moved here. So it was no money down territory, which is why two kids straight out of college could afford to do this.
Right.
So yeah, we started out very humble. I mean, we moved down here with the shirts on our backs, and some tools and a couple of trucks. We started doing that. We also did some turnkey work outside of that, for another contractor, just so we had money coming in the door. But we're young, no families, no kids, no wives. We could work 20 hours a day, get 4 to 6 hours a day of shut eye, and survive.
And back at it.
Yeah, and go back at it. Those are things you can do as a young guy that you can't do as you get older and have a family and have expectations of a family. So, we took advantage of that while we could, and we did a number of duplexes. I think we did one triplex, number of single families, and so we kind of got a little bit well rounded because we were searching them out, and buying them, taking them through the entire renovation process from start to finish. We did most of the work ourselves to save money, so it's sweat equity of doing all the work ourselves. So we didn't do heavy electrical or heavy HVAC, or replumb entire properties, but we did, all the tear out, and we did a lot of things that in hindsight, we could have subbed out for less money than it cost us to do it ourselves because of time, but we didn't have any money, but we had time.
Yeah.
So, and it was good learning because now we know how to do most of everything that has to do with building a home. My brother more so than I do. And so we worked through doing that, building these properties up. Got to late 2003, early 2004. So we'd been doing it for almost 3 years at that point. And the market had done kind of what it's done today, where it was on an upward trajectory, as we all know.
Yeah.
It's headed towards 07. Okay. And those properties that we were able to buy, those duplexes, those triplexes, the single families we were able to buy really cheap and put sweat equity into, and then either rent them out for a profit or flip them for a profit. They didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
When we started buying duplexes, we'd buy a duplex for $30,000, and we'd put our sweat equity and some money into it, and we'd have a $120,000 property. And as it got into late '03 and early '04, all of a sudden, those same duplexes were now, and they were train wrecks, were now $80,000, $90,000. And so there was no spread there. There was no way to make any money on those.
Yeah.
And so, we got the idea to go into building homes, building single family detached homes. And that's where my brother and I really started separating our duties, if you will. My brother's always been the blue collar, boots on the ground guy. I've always been more the business side of the thing. And I explained to people that, look, Ralph, here's the difference between Ralph and I. Ralph likes his boots dirty. I don't like anything on my boots at all. I want them to be spotless. And that's the same description I gave somebody yesterday. That's what we always describe us, and people get a chuckle out of it. But I mean, it's true. And so he went and got his contractor's license, and I went and got my real estate license, and I opened the business up, got the line of credit set up with it was AmSouth Bank at the time. They gave us a whopping $400,000 line of credit to build 2 spec homes, and away we went. So that was August of 2004. So this is August of 2024. So we're literally in our 20th year right now.
And are those first 2 houses still standing?
They are.
Okay.
Yes, they are. They are in those first two houses are in Campbell's Point up in Coreyton.
Oh wow.
So we bought 2 lots side by side, and again we did the same thing with those that we've done with our remodels. We did a lot of stuff ourselves. We framed those houses ourselves. We did the foundations ourselves. We did so much stuff on those homes ourselves. We hired a couple of guys to work with us to help us out, so it'd go a little faster. But yeah, we built those first 2 houses, sold those, and then there was a building boom going on in Sevier County, and I actually lived in Seymour at the time, so we started buying lots in Sevier County and started building in Sevier County. And so we moved up there, and we built up there for a while. We built up there until 2007, 2008, when everything imploded.
Changed.
Yeah, everything changed.
Yeah. The world became different.
World became very different. Yeah, it was that was a very humbling experience. When you're that new in a business, you're very undercapitalized. We were young. When my brother and I moved down here, my brother wasn't drinking age, and I was just barely drinking age. So at this point in time in our careers, we were still mid-20s, and we'd built a good business in 07, 08, but we weren't prepared money-wise, or, we just thought if we just built houses, they'd just sell.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I'd say there was a lot of people that weren't prepared.
Yeah, and we made. I'm going to say, you look back on your time in business and you say, well, what kind of dumb decisions did I make? And we made a really, and I'll lay this on at my feet. I mean, I bought a bunch of lots, literally right before this crash was about to happen. And it was like the worst timing to buy a lot. It's a great timing for the guy that sold them because, I mean, he got off rid of these lots, but we bought them at the wrong time. And so it was a struggle. It was a real struggle. We went back to, remodeling. We didn't build a house from probably 2008 to 2012. I bet we built a house or two houses a year for that period of time. And then in 2012, we kind of really started hammering on building houses again.
Well, that's when real estate really started to get it back into an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
I mean, there was definitely a 4-year period of, I think nobody knew really what was ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And then people started getting back into the market and buying up the inventory that was available.
Well, the thing is, for us, it's always, everything we've done has always been relationship based. So really, getting back in a building was a relationship based thing because we were just starting to get back in the building, and bankers were still not even wanting to lend on new construction unless you just had if you had the money, they'd lend to you because you didn't need it. But if you didn't have the money, they weren't going to lend it to you. And so we had a trade contractor at that time who had a great relationship with a gentleman that had a great relationship with a bank in Maryville. And just through those relationships, we were able to get a meeting with the bank in Maryville. who is, to this day is one of our strongest assets. And he said, look, these guys are the real deal, and they do what they say they're going to do. And he backed us up, and so they gave us a line of credit to really start going out and building houses again. And that's just kind of how we started things rolling. So everything that we've accomplished in the 20 years, I'm gonna tell you, is all relationship based. It's been either us helping somebody or somebody else helping us, because we didn't get through 20 years all on our own.
So it's a pretty awesome story because, a lot of people, the testament is if somebody were to look at you today and say, oh, wow, look at where he's at. I want to do that. And they think they can do it tomorrow. Everybody wants that quick fix. But you and your brother, I mean, you just said it, 20 years. That's not quick.
No.
But in a life, I mean, that's what people should expect. You picked a path. You worked hard at it. You built those relationships. Even when the world went sideways, you kept on that trajectory, and here you are today. Which brings me to you guys. I know. Obviously, I know a little bit about John Cook. That's why I have him on the show. We do have, he talks about relationships. We are friends, and you guys really, from what I've seen, really started to really make a name for yourself in Tellico Village. Tellico Village, for those who don't know, has had a lot of lots.
Yes.
For people to build on. So that's kind of where I see that you guys really made a name for yourself. Can you tell a little bit about that experience, and then where you are, like where you're at today and where you're kind of headed with it?
Yeah. So again, Tellico Village, another big relationship deal. We got an inquiry came in to build a home on the lake in Tellico Village, and my wife is from Loudoun County. Went to Greenback High School, so she's a local. So she was very familiar with Tellico Village. I had never been to Tellico Village myself. I'd heard of it, but I'd never been there. Again, we're still living in Seymour at the time, and there was an opportunity came up. They said, "Look, we need to build a lake house." And at this point in time, this is probably 2013, 2014, and so we're not turning down any work that comes our way at that point.
Right.
If you want to build a home, we'll talk to you. Okay. If you have a pulse, it appears that you have some money, and you want to build a home, we'll have a conversation. And so this gentleman called. He's from Indiana. I'm from Illinois, so we hit it off. And he said, "Look, we bought this lot at Tellico Village, and it's on the water, and we want to build a home. And we heard great things from you from this real estate agent." Well, the real estate agent happens to be really great friends with my wife's family, and so he connected us. So went down there. Anyways, we hit it off with this gentleman, and we struck a deal to build their home. And the real estate agent that was friends with my wife's family said, "Look, there's tons of lots down here, and really nobody's putting houses on the ground, to sell." And we said, "Look, if we're going to go down there and build one house, we'll go down there and build two houses." So we bought a lot to build a spec house on, and it just went like wildfire from there. I mean, that spec house sold before we had the shingles on it, to some great folks. Still remember them. They recently sold their home and moved and downsized from it. But it just went like wildfire. We sold that house. We bought another lot and sold it. We bought another lot and we sold it. And so we just started. We started figuring out a little bit about ourselves, in that that was a good fit for us in terms of the way we wanted to do business, because we wanted to build high quality homes, and we wanted to build them at a set price, at a fixed price. Early in our careers, we had done cost plus contracting, which is what most custom home builders do.
Yeah.
And we did it because that's what we knew, but it wasn't really that enjoyable, because in that instance, it feels like you're pitting the homeowner against the builder, because in a cost plus scenario or a cost plus a fixed fee scenario, the builder or contractor has no reason to hold costs down.
Right.
I mean, they have every reason to push costs up.
Right.
Of course, a homeowner, because of their budget, has every reason to try to push costs down. And so unless you're dealing with a super affluent buyer that just doesn't care what it costs, there's always that kind of push and pull between those two parties. It's just not a lot of fun for us. My brother and I we like being able to tell somebody, hey, your house is going to be X, and when it's done, you're going to pay us X, and that's all it's going to be.
Well, in I would say to that too. I think building a custom home is probably one of the most stressful things a home buyer, homeowner can do, because there's so many choices.
Yeah.
And even though everything looks great on paper, that doesn't mean that it's going to turn out the way you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
People want to build the quote unquote, and for those of you who are listening to this, I am using air quotes. They quote unquote want to build the perfect house, only to move into it. And all of them, anybody I've ever talked to, they're like, oh, I wish I would have done this.
I've built 5 homes for myself, 5 of them. And the one I live in now, I'll keep that home until the day that I pass. And there are things with that home that I wish that I had done differently, or that I want to add, or I'm like, but it's always, you just don't always think of it in the moment. And it's a plan that we build, so it's like a home that I'm familiar with. It's not a custom plan.
Well, so I was going to say, you guys basically narrowed down your plans to, was it about 4 or 5?
Really, yeah, we've got more than that, but our plan portfolio is pretty tight. Yeah.
So you can basically tell with a lot of certainty. You can tell a customer, this is what it's going to cost.
Yes.
This is what here, we can go look at one. You can see if you really like it. Because you build these not just on your lots, but you can also build these for people on their lots.
On their lots, yeah.
Okay, so I interrupted, but yeah,
So that was really attractive to the folks that are coming in Tellico Village, because most of them are coming from out of state.
Right.
Okay. And so what they're looking for is they're looking for some certainty. They're looking certainty in how much is this going to cost, certainty in are they going to produce the quality of home that they say they're going to produce, and certainty of are they going to get done when they say they're going to get done. Okay, because they're having to relocate, and they're not going to be here during the build. Okay, right. And most of them don't have family here either, so they have nobody looking out for them. I mean, if the builder's not looking out for them, they're kind of up a creek.
And even though they have, most of the people I would say have some retirement saved up, they are people going into maybe a fixed income situation.
They're going to a fixed income situation, so they may have money saved up. They have equity from their home, from wherever they're coming from.
They've got money budgets.
Yeah, they don't have unlimited budgets, and so that's kind of how we made our name in Tellico Village. Was being able to provide what we call inside of our internally certainty. We're trying to provide certainty, and so we do that. We still do that to this day. But that's really where we made our name, was in providing that certainty, because other competitors that we were working against fell down on one of those 3 or all of those 3. And so we were able to kind of corner that market and be able to do that. So we also realized in doing that that if we can, one of the ways we were able to provide certainty was, as we got into it deeper, was we were one of the first ones in the area to build a design studio, because one of our top things that we had, issues that we had, was, like most builders, we had for them to make their selections, we had to take them all around town.
Yep.
To make their selection. So we'd have to go to the brick place, and we'd have to go to the flooring place, and we'd have to go to the plumbing place and appliances. Well, those showrooms, just like any other retail establishment, are geared towards getting you upsold.
Right.
Okay. And so if you walk into, I won't name any of the names of the folks that I do business with on, here, because I don't want to say anything bad about their showrooms, but if you walk into their showrooms folks are, their showrooms are set up to try to get you to upsell, And so the struggle as a builder is, if you're doing that, everybody's naturally going to be drawn to the shiniest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to a car lot, you could go to a car lot looking for, I'm trying to think of something. Like, you could go to a car lot looking for a Ford Ranger, okay? But, man, that King Ranch F-150 looks pretty daggum sweet.
Right. You're talking to somebody who drives a Ram Limited.
See, yes, there you go. Exactly.
I understand. And I did not go there for that.
No, that's probably not what you're looking for. But the guy's like, well, look, for just this much more, you can have this. And in that instance, it's a one item purchase. But if you do that across the spectrum of a home, if everything that you do is just the next level up,
It becomes expensive.
dude, it changes the game. Like
Yeah.
we're not even in the same zip code anymore.
Yeah.
But then, the human mind is it's really hard to pare it back down because you saw yourself needing all this stuff, but all this stuff is, it could be a couple $100,000 more than what you were planning to spend or whatever. And now you're like, well, man, well, I can't take that away and I can't take this away. So that's why we built our design studio, again, gearing towards these folks that are coming from out of state and trying to make a decision more quickly. Our goal was to get it to where somebody could come in, make all their decisions in 2 days or less, fly back out, drive back out, whatever. And we knew it when they picked their stuff out, we knew exactly what that stuff was going to cost because we'd already curated it. We had narrowed it down to the stuff that was most important to our buyers, the best stuff from the best places, the best prices that we knew we could get in the marketplace, and in doing that, we were able to provide that certainty.
Certainty. Well, in that too, talk about like that making it easier for the consumer as well, because recently just sold a home that we built, and when it came to those, I'm a guy. I don't care what kind of faucet. You know what I'm saying? I don't, but I know it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to, what kind of faucets, what kind of doorknobs, I'm like, Terry Joe, this is you,
Yeah.
And then she's like, all right, well, where do I, what do I have to choose from? And it's like, well, in that scenario, it was whatever you want. And it's like, well, that's way too many things.
Wide.
So to be able to narrow it down and to be able to actually see it, I've been in your showroom, your studios, and you actually physically can walk through and see all this stuff. And most of it's set up in a way that it's actually a kitchen.
Yeah.
It's actually a bathroom. So you can actually see how it works. You can see the crown molding. That is probably, I don't want to inflate your ego, but that's probably the most genius thing, is to be able to walk in and actually physically see it in use.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are other folks that have design studios. We were probably a relatively early adopter, especially for our size. That was a massive leap for us. It was a huge cash expenditure for us at the time that we did it. We opened that design studio in 2018, I think. So that was a major cash expense for us at that time. And it was a little bit of a leap of faith because not a lot of other folks at our size had one. But we felt to do what we wanted to do, to continue our growth, and to be able to provide that certainty, that was something that we needed to do. So that's been doing that and narrowing down our plans to where we had, we worked with a firm to just take our plan sets, develop some key plans with a bunch of different elevations, with a bunch of different structural options, so that, again, we know exactly what it's going to cost to produce that, because if you know exactly what it's going to cost, then you know what you can sell it for,
Right.
And that way you can provide that certainty to that buyer that when they write that contract, they don't have to worry about, any increases. I mean, even when after COVID, pricing went nuts after COVID.
It did.
I mean, it went insane. I mean, a sheet of OSB that was $7.99 went over $60 a sheet. And it did it, we're writing contracts that we don't start the home usually for 3 to 6 months from the time we write a contract. So we're trying to forecast in the future. My purchasing department is trying to forecast in the future. How much are things going to be in the future? Well, you're never going to forecast that a $7.99 sheet of OSB is going to go over $60.
Right.
But we don't have any cost escalations we don't have any escalators in our contracts. It says that we're going to do it for that. And you can do that if you know how many of those things you're going to need. And if you're, and if you're just being honest with your folks and saying, look, I said I was going to do it for that, so I got to do it for that.
Right.
But if you do it any other way, to me, it's just dishonest. If you put an escalator in there and what's just going to cost you, whatever it's going to cost you, well, now it's just back to cost plus contract. It's not fair.
Well, and there were builders. I don't know. I've not heard any stories of it having had happen here, but I definitely heard about it in places like Florida and places like Texas, where there were builders that would cancel contracts
Yeah.
because they were like, we can't sell the house for that anymore.
Yeah.
And they just unilaterally canceled,
Yeah.
which really kind of put the purchaser in a bad spot because that was the home they could afford. That's what they were planning on. They,
Yeah.
they already had everything in the
They
works.
may have already sold their house, or
Yeah,
their
I
house is
mean,
already on the market, or
what
you
a
know,
what
pull
a
the money out of their 401k or whatever it was they needed to, put into it.
what a bad spot to be in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely, and people, I hear people talk about, they're like, oh, I bought my house and, well, one of the ones that stands out to me, people talk about like sod. And I'm just like, you're lucky you got sod. I can't tell you how many homes that, the builder was still, they're like, there is no sod.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know what to tell you, So I'm like, you're lucky you got it. I understand it's not the quality you thought it would be,
Yeah.
but you have grass. Be
It was
happy.
it was a night, but that was I would say for us the late 2007 through 2011 time period, that 4 years right there is 4 years I would never want to relive again. And honestly, COVID, the effects of COVID in terms of being able to sell homes, that was positive. But the 3 years, the at least the 2 years anyways, of 2020, 2021, and even early 2022, those were not fun years. I mean, they just weren't fun years in the building business because we just could not get what we needed to complete homes. And it was almost impossible to warranty homes because either you had to, especially with us, we're dealing with folks that are a little bit more, open to sickness because we're dealing with in Tellico Village. Tellico Village is a retirement community.
Right.
Most of the folks are 55 plus. And so it was just, if you had to get back, we were closing homes that didn't have the appliances they were supposed to have. Sometimes they didn't have their drawer fronts or door fronts in their cabinets. There were plumbing fixtures we had to switch out. And so many manufacturers, I mean, again, we have that design studio, so we have things in there that we say that you can get, but then when it came time to get it, we couldn't get it because they just stopped making it.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't, the manufacturers couldn't push out the product at the speed
they were shut down for a period of time, and then things got backlogged.
So what they did is they just took their product, they took their product mix and they just completely shrunk it down so that they could at least get the product out the door, some product out the door. And so that was a really, that was a really rough time period.
Yeah. Well, I know for us, I would say for the sales side of things, in one aspect it was great and fun because, like you said, we were selling houses, like a lot of houses. But the impact that's had on our marketplace, because now, since then we've had the interest rate hikes, we've had this like slingshot effect where, one year the industry selling over 6 million homes, and then literally the next year it's down to 4, and that's a big swing.
Yep.
And so as a business owner, I think we would all rather have that smooth trajectory and not this wild ride that we've had the last couple of years. So we've got kind of that launching point. Tellico Village, I would say, is really kind of that launching point. But you've shifted now into, we'll just call it more of a development phase.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
and what does that mean?
Well, here's where it comes from. So, as we got into late, 2018, we started getting close to the end of that decade right there. What I started to see, the writing on the wall was the number of lots was shrinking. Number of developed lots was shrinking. So, again, an effect of 2007, 2008, is that a lot of developers lost their shirts. Okay, and the banks did too. Okay,
Yeah.
But a lot of banks got bailed out a lot. Okay, developers didn't get bailed out.
Right.
Okay, and so these developers that lost their shirts either didn't come back in they never came back to the party, like a lot of contractors didn't, or they came back to the party, but they came back underneath this one qualification. I'm only going to develop if I have a seller already lined up to sell the lots to, okay, at a retail price, whatever that retail price may be. So pre-2007, 2008, you could go buy lots, onesie, twosie, wherever you wanted to, all over town.
Right.
Okay, any developer would sell them to you. You could go buy, a guy be developing a 60-lot subdivision, and you could go in and say, I want lots 5 through 10.
Yeah, I remember Reagan's Landing in Hardin Valley is one that
Yep.
I'm pretty familiar with. That there was probably a half a dozen builders in there building, kind of different, similar but different homes, and so more of a mom and pop sort of operation. We still see that in Tellico Village. But to your point, because I want to circle back around to this later, you saw a need for lots.
Yeah, yeah. Tellico Village had all those lots, but the lot count was shrinking like crazy. We're building houses out there like crazy. Some other people, of course, saw our success we were having, so they started building houses out there like crazy. And so, it was Tellico Village was, I think, at the peak of the market. I want to say permits was somewhere maybe around 600 a year. I'm just guessing somewhere around that number. And we were 70 to 80 of those permits ourselves. I mean, we're a pretty high number of those permits. So the number of permits skyrocketed in Tellico Village. And Tellico Village isn't creating any more lots, so the number of lots is going down. Then we also have the scattered lot business where we'll build for people on their lots. Okay, so anybody, if you have a lot, we'll go build wherever on your lot. But again, our buyers are having a super difficult time finding a lot to build on,
Right.
because the number of lots is going down. So to give you accounts on lots, pre-COVID, we had almost 30,000 lots either developed or in development phase. This is data that's tracked by Market Graphics. They're a real estate data firm out of Nashville, and Knoxville is one of their markets. And when I say that, that's in the Knoxville MSA, which is 6 counties.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Knox County, Anderson County, Sevier County, Loudoun County, Blount County, and I'm missing one. What's the other one?
Anderson, Roan, one of those.
Roan, yeah.
Roan.
So you got 6 counties right there. They count, and we were at 30,000. It's right. It was like 29 and change. Okay. As of last year, we're at 12,000, less than 12,000, 11,000 and change. Okay, so we're burning through lots way faster than what they're putting lots on the ground. And so I looked at the market and I said, look, if I told my brother, and we have our chief operating officer, I told them, I said, if we don't start putting lots on the ground for ourselves, we are not going to have lots to build on. We want to grow. We want to keep improving ourselves and growing. Well, we can't grow when we can't get more lots.
Right. The lots are the bottleneck.
The lots are the bottleneck. The lots are the bottleneck in the whole housing supply issue, period. Okay? So we can start with there, because everything goes, if you don't have a lot to build on, you can't build a house.
Right.
If you're talking about single family detached, and it's the same thing with apartments. If you don't have the property to build the apartments on, then no apartments are produced. And so that's where we started. We started our foray into developing. So we opened up our own development company, because again, our other option was to find a developer to develop the lots for us. But since we were going to be doing all of the building on the lots, it just made sense for us. My brother and I have always, again, this is just how we've done in our business. We've rolled everything we've made back into our businesses. That's how. So we've always rolled as much as we could back into our business to try to keep growing the business. And so we thought it just makes a lot more sense to do this ourselves than to pay somebody else to do it. And then we get the lots when we need them. They're designed the way we want them to be designed.
We have more control over the.
We have a lot more control over it. And so that's when we started. I think we bought our first 2 properties in 2000. Either late 2018 or early 2019 is when we closed on. I think we closed on one late 2018, one early 2019. And it's been a little bit of school of hard knocks. It's just like building a home. Once you build your first couple, and they don't maybe come out exactly as you thought, and
Or you run into that one thing, you're like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, there's it's like building a prototype. It's like the first time you've built it, and so There's going to be some mistakes, and there's going to be some things you're like, I wish I would have done that differently or whatever. So, we're getting better at it, definitely. But that's why we went into development. It was just to produce something so we could build on it.
So, and that's something that, like I said, I want to kind of circle back around to it because back in the day, they were making developments like, say, Tellico Village or Reagan's Landing. They were making these. Somebody was going out and spending the money and time
Yeah.
to make a place where people could come and build homes. And that's not happening anymore.
No.
Now that's why you see the D.R. Hortons, the Smith Builts, the Saddlebrooks. They're all doing pretty much exactly what you're doing, and that is they're sourcing land and building just for them.
Yes.
Right. So now I see one thing, and I'm sure they're either thinking about it or they will be thinking about it real soon. But all these other builders say in Tellico Village, when Tellico Village is built out, they're done. There's no place to build.
Yeah, that was part of my thought process back when I moved us towards this developing. Is I said my forecast was, and I was probably a little bit off on that because I obviously didn't plan for COVID to occur. But I said I feel like in 5 to 10 years. And I said, and I feel like closer to 5. And I gave this hypothesis to internally, and also some bankers that I work with that all are now, that's probably pretty spot on. I said 5 to 10 years. The smaller builders, the builders that are building, I'm going to say 0 to 25 homes a year. They're going to have to be just pure custom, and they're going to be building on whatever lot somebody has, wherever it is, no matter how bad it is. I don't care how many sinkholes it has on it, how much rock it has on it, what topography is. That's all they're going to have, because they're not capitalized well enough to go out there and buy the land and develop it. Because as I'm sure we're going to get into, development is extremely expensive, and you have to be extremely well capitalized to do that, or have some really deep pocket investors. And so those smaller players, and some of them, I've been in this industry a long time, so some of these guys are good friends of mine. But I fear that they're going to be going the way of the dinosaur, because the business model of developing lots and selling them individually just is no longer. I mean, the capital markets just won't. They won't allow it. If you were to go to any lender and say, hey, look, I want to buy this property over here, and I'm going to develop 100 lots on it, and the very first question that they're going to ask you is what's your how quickly are you going to sell out of those lots? That's the very first question they're going to ask. Everything is a timing thing. How quickly are you going to sell those lots, and who's buying them? Well, you can't say how quickly you're going to sell out of them if you're selling them onesie, twosie to random folks.
Right.
You have no clue. And so it's just not going to happen. It's not something that's going to happen. Back pre 07, 08, you could get those loans all day long and everything was hunky dory, but post that, that's one of the things that's changed is it's just not going to happen.
It's kind of crazy too when you think about it, because I feel like that also will create a scenario where it's harder for, let's just say, the next Cook Bros to come along, right? The next person to say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where I need to start. There will no longer be a stepping stone of, hey, I got some spots where I can work this out, get my game plan, build up some equity, and move on to something bigger. It's going to basically be the big guys and like you said, the custom home, which they make a good living that way. But to your point, we get people call up, hey, I'm looking. First of all, land in Tennessee is not cheap. Anybody listen to this? Land in Tennessee is not cheap. It's not as cheap as you think it is, right?
No.
I'm glad I stopped getting the call for the $50,000 lake lot, because I'm gonna tell you, if I find a $50,000 lake lot, I'm buying it.
Exactly.
Right? Those days are long gone. But it's kind of crazy to have seen, and I mean, we both have witnessed this now in our lifetime. There's a lot of young people out there that have no idea what we're talking about, but you used to be able to say, hey, I like this neighborhood. I like that lot. I see this house over here. I'm going to go talk to that builder and make all that happen.
Yeah, I'll just buy the lot and have this builder build the house on it for me.
Yeah, and it was a relatively
Common.
yeah. But so now you're into developing, which makes sense from your business standpoint, but it also is probably, I'm going to say, way harder to get done than what people think. Let me back up a second. Nobody wants a development in today's world.
No, it's sort of a thankless job, if you will. It's kind of funny. So I'll go back to our relationships. We're in two different builder peer groups, and so I think in any business, it's very smart to get around people that know more than you do, and you can learn from them. And so we got involved with one of our peer groups in 2000. I think we've been with them 2014. This group, and the builders in that group have changed. But these builder peer groups are from all over the U.S. So the peer groups we're in have had builders all the way from California to Delaware, and north and south as well. And so you learn a lot from these guys and gals. And there's a lot of information sharing. And I can tell you that so now these peer groups, as we've gotten it's across the country, as we've gotten to where there's not enough lots, almost everyone in these peer groups is developing lots for themselves. Mm-hmm. There's only a couple of custom builders in both of these groups. Are about 12. There's 12 builders in each group, I think. 24 builders total. And I think in those groups, there's 2 builders that I can think of that don't develop.
Okay.
So setting the background for this, my next statement is, I can tell you that every one of those builders that is developing is their least favorite thing, and a thing that they wish they did not have to do. If they could just get someone to develop lots for them, and again, where they want them, in the spec that they wanted them,
right?
At a takedown schedule that they could work with, they would not develop lots. It's super time consuming. It's very cash intensive, and it's thankless. It's a thankless position to be in. I sat down. I'll make my point here. I sat down on Friday evening. So we went to a wine dinner. My wife and I did, and it's just random seating at this wine dinner. And we sat down next to a couple we'd never sat next to before. And I asked the gentleman. I said, what do you do? And he said, well, I work for HDI. It says it's the name of his company, and of course I know what they do. But I said, yeah. I said, well, and somebody else. So I went on in my conversation. Somebody else asked him. They said, well, what do you do there? And he says, well, we're a developer, and he leans over to me a little bit later and he goes, I'm almost always nervous when I sit down with somebody to say I'm a developer, because I wonder what the reaction is going to be, because some people their reaction can be super negative. And I said, well, you're sitting next to me. You're safe.
Yeah. You're in a safe place.
You're in a safe place. We'll go to war together, brother. But it's gotten negative connotations. It's kind of funny. I drove to Huntsville, Alabama yesterday to look at a piece of commercial property. And so on my drive, I don't very often listen to the radio, but every once in a while, when I'm in between phone calls, I'll turn the radio on. And I'm sure I don't know if you listen to country music radio or not at all, but there's a couple of songs on country music radio right now that are about not selling the farm. Okay. And they're super anti-development and super pro, agriculture. And they're geared just towards, I'm telling you, and you listen to that song and it makes it sound like the developer's the worst thing in the history of man. He's coming to buy your land, and generations have lived on this land, and he's going to come buy this land, and you're going to be left with nothing. That's the way the country songs go. I mean, you kind of lose your dog and your wife and, all this other stuff in the middle of it. But,
So, John, have you ever taken land from anybody?
No, I've never,
You've never taken land?
never taken land from anybody. We've been accused of it, but I've never done it.
Well, so I know exactly what you're talking about because I see it play out even here. Where we're sitting right now is in Farragut, and there has been plenty of farmland around here that's been developed over the years. And people want to make the story that the developers are coming in and taking farmland.
Yeah.
And I don't know of any developer who's actually taken land from anybody. Last I heard, they pay for it at a price that's suitable by the seller.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the seller wants to sell the farm.
Yes.
And I don't understand how hard that is to get. The other part of that story is the reason why the developer wants to buy the land is because they want to build something that other people need.
Yes.
I mean, because you're not just building houses and letting them just sit there. You're selling them.
Exactly. I mean, so we have when we bring new people on with our company, we have a whole onboarding process, and part of the onboarding process is they sit down and they have lunch with me, and I kind of give them some of the backstory I've given you on this as we've been talking today, and sort of some of the mantras of the company and kind of how we operate, morally, how we just how we carry ourselves and how we do things, and why I like doing what we do, and one of the things I say is, look, there's three things. There's a lot of stuff you need, okay? But there's three things you absolutely got to have, okay? Got to have food. Got to have water. Got to have shelter, okay? If you don't have those three things in life, you're not long for this world. It's a pretty rough deal. I mean, the cavemen were looking for these three things.
Yeah.
Food, water, shelter, okay? We provide one of those. Okay. It also happens to come with running water, by the way.
Yeah.
But
and a place to cook food.
Yeah, and a place to cook food. But we're providing the shelter. So to me, it's a necessary. Like, everybody has to have it.
Right.
Okay. If you don't have it, obviously not everybody does have it. We've got this homeless situation, but everybody, that's what their goal is. Everyone wants to have a stable place where they can lay their head down and the rain's not coming in on them, and they can make their food and they can raise their family and they can enjoy their lives. And so we're trying to provide that, for folks. And no, we don't take people's land. When I hear those country signs, I'm a big country fan. Although I don't listen to too much pop.
And you're
country.
also somebody who grew up on a farm.
I am. I am somebody who grew up on a farm. And my dad grew up on a farm in central Michigan. So my dad's very, very deep into farming. My parents live on 100 and some acres out in Seymour now, and still do. My dad still plays in the dirt every day, and he's 85. He'll be 85 this year, I think. So the part of that, the verse I want to add on that country song is, okay, this gentleman may not want to sell the farm, because of all these sentiments he has and whatever else. But when he passes, or he and his wife pass, his kids, more than likely, if he's in a growing area, they will want to sell the farm, So it's okay if he doesn't want to sell the farm. If I offer somebody money to sell their farm and they won't take it, we just move on to the next person, But when it comes time for them to sell the farm, who's to tell them that they shouldn't be able to sell that farm? I mean, they own the property.
Right.
Okay. It's been their family for however many years. They're the heirs of it. If it's their prerogative to sell that farm, and the highest and best use of it, we can talk a lot about highest and best use if you want. The highest and best use of that farm is not farming anymore.
Right.
But is now for development. Then they should have the ability to sell that farm. In East Tennessee, and I grew up in Central Illinois. Central Illinois, the topsoil was thicker than it is from this tabletop that we're at to the floor that we're standing on. Okay, it is ripe soil.
Right.
Okay, every property that we purchase, before we ever go to full contract, we do soil tests on it. Okay, that means you go out there with a drill, kind of like drilling a well. Go out there with a drill, and you go all over the property, and you drill test pits because you're looking for sinkholes, you're looking for what kind of soil you do, and you do a soil type on that entire core. You do a soil type. That soil type, you can do 8 feet, you can do 10 feet. It just depends on the property how deep we're going to go. It is very, very rare that we run into a piece of property that has over 6 inches of topsoil. Very rare. And usually it's only in the bottoms that it has that much topsoil. Okay. It's not really farm ground. It is acreage that is doesn't have homes on it. But to call it a farm when there hasn't been cattle on it or crops on it for years and years and years, and the soil is of a type that does not readily grow anything and wouldn't support livestock, is ignorant. It's not a farm.
No, it's a dream. It's a picturesque picture in somebody's mind. Across the street, there is a large patch of land that has a house on it in the back, and it has an old barn about halfway. It butts up to Kingston Pike. I actually got a call on it last week from a developer out of our area who, ironically enough, was looking for land for apartments, called me to see if I knew anything about that land. And I was like, oh, you mean, and that's the past mayor, a previous mayor of Farragut lives there, right? And he's like, he thought it was just vacant land. People think that shouldn't be developed because the only reason is because it's pretty. It's pretty. It's space. I understand that. I live here. I moved here because it's pretty too.
Yes.
Right? I get that. But that man has been sitting on that property for a long time, and it's been for sale the entire time. Just nobody's had the plan and the money to make it happen.
Yeah.
He is not waiting for, just the right time. He's waiting for the right person with the right price.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't care how long you've been here. And this is one of the things that I get a little passionate about. I don't care how long you've been here. You don't have a right to tell that man he can't sell his property to the highest bidder.
No.
You just don't.
No. No, I get wrapped around the axle pretty quickly about the whole property rights thing, because one of the things that folks, and this is going to get a little bit political. I'll try to not get too political because we might get really, really off the chain here. But, folks think that if somebody is conservative, that they're automatically a property rights advocate. That is absolutely and unequivocally not true.
Right.
I have gone to war with some of the most conservative folks you'll ever meet in your entire life, and they are absolutely not property rights advocates. They think that they should be able to tell their neighbor exactly what he or she can do with their property. And zoning be damned. They should be able to say whatever they want to say, to do, and it doesn't make a difference what the zoning is. It doesn't make a difference what they want to do with their property. It doesn't make a difference what the highest and best use of that property is. I don't want there to be a subdivision there, so you can't put a subdivision there.
And that is, okay, we're getting to the heart of why I wanted you on here.
Get my blood pressure up?
Well,
I'm going to go see my cardiologist after that. It's okay. We'll probably just get a stent put in. Be good.
So, because I have seen these meetings. I've been to at least one where you've had to meet with a homeowners association.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting because honestly, it was not very exciting because they honestly didn't have much to say. I can understand why somebody maybe doesn't want a project building built next door, right? I can maybe understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't happen in a lot of places.
No.
Because
it's pretty difficult to build low-income housing, in a lot of places because the cost of the land to develop it by its nature.
Everybody who lives here lives in a home that was either built in a neighborhood or they had built on a piece of property that they divided off of something else.
Yeah.
So how they can say no to or think they can say no. It just drives me nuts. The other part that drives me crazy is this idea that we need to hold on to. No, don't get me wrong. Culture, I get. Culture doesn't have to leave because we add more
No.
people, right? But to hold on to how things were, we lost some of that when we built Turkey Creek. We lost a lot of that when we built Costco, right? I'm like, Farragut bills itself as a small town. Geographically, it is.
Yeah.
Find me another small town that has a Costco in it. I doubt you can do it.
I know the one I grew up in didn't.
Yeah, they don't build them in small towns.
No.
Right? So there's all of this stuff. Nonetheless, we do these things that attract people, right? We want people to move here. We want people to visit here. We want people to start businesses here. We want economic growth and development. If we didn't, we shouldn't have a chamber of commerce.
I agree.
Right? We should probably close the University of Tennessee. Why educate people if we don't want them to go to work?
Yeah, we don't want to grow.
Yeah. So it's this, what is your expectation? I'm sorry if you bought the house because it backed up to 15 acres of farmland and you thought that was going to stay farmland forever.
Yeah.
You got to enjoy it for what little bit of time you did. But somebody's going to probably build houses there.
Yeah, we're I won't say the location because I don't want to get anybody in hot water, but we're under contract to buy a piece of property, and it's not been farmed in years. It's just a grass field, and it's on the backside of an existing development that's been there since it was developed in the 50s. And had a meeting with the city mayor. He lives in the neighborhood that's backs up to this, and he said my neighbors are going to be, I support this because it matches zoning. I mean, it's right up against a neighborhood that's already zoned the same way.
Right. He
said, but my neighbor, I'm going to have some neighbors that are going to be really, really upset with this development and with me. He said, and he said it before I could say it. He said, but if they wanted it, they could have bought it. And that's what I said, thank you, Mayor. I said, look, we didn't write a contract on it off market. We didn't write a contract on it the first day it came on the market. Okay. So any of those folks that backed up to it, the second they saw it came up on the market, and they knew how it was zoned, and they knew what it could be, if they didn't want to be that, they could have pulled out their wallet, their checkbook, and written a check for it. They didn't.
And same thing goes anywhere around here. Form a land trust, do whatever you need. I don't know what it is you need to do, but pull money together if you want to protect. Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to tell somebody what they can what they can do with their property, but it's very frustrating that we know how low our housing stock is. We know the businesses that we're bringing here. Our Knoxville Chamber of Commerce is one of the best in the nation. Okay, I mean they won Best in the Nation award. Was that 6 years ago? Okay. I mean, they are, and I'm not saying that just because I'm affiliated with them. I'm on the board of directors. I'm not saying that just because of that. I've been a fan of them for a long time, and they just do a kick butt job at bringing folks here, businesses here, getting and attracting businesses. They just do a great job of that. Loudoun County is the same way. Loudoun County has got a number of large industrial. And manufacturing type of folks that are relocating there, and they continue to grow stuff. Blount County is doing the same thing. We just had what's a firearms manufacturer that came in over there? Smith & Wesson. Smith & Wesson coming over there. So we're attracting all this industry, and so we're doing the right things to attract all this industry. But these folks have got to have a place to live.
They have to.
And people don't like it when I say this. Well, look, if you don't like having somebody in your backyard, then take your winnings, because your house has gone up in value. Take your winnings, I call them, and just go 10 or 15 miles out and build you and get you a house.
Move to Blaine.
Yeah, you just have to drive a little farther. I mean, that's because that's a trade-off that you have. You can either live in a populated area and have neighbors, or you can commute. I mean, it's just a simple trade-off, really. And so when folks say, "Well, I don't want that person in my backyard," well, just I mean, again, take your winnings, just sell your home because you're gonna have a bunch of equity in it from the houses that I built or from the houses that somebody else built. Let's face it, brand new homes raise property values.
Yes.
They do not decrease them.
Correct.
Okay, they don't. Okay, so you're naturally going to have some equity in your home. Take those winnings and go somewhere. Well, they'll say, well, the schools aren't as good. Well, again, it's a trade-off. Do you want something in your backyard, or you want maybe better schools? I don't know.
The reason why somebody else wants to live in your backyard is because your schools are good. The same reasons why you bought there. That is the thing. I want to move to the second part of this. Is if we're not building houses for people to buy and to move into, what we're doing is we're creating so much scarcity of inventory that we're going to create crazy prices to where we're going to have this horrible housing problem. I mean, you have to have housing for people in various aspects of life.
Yes.
If you don't, you're going to lose the people in that.
Somewhere along the spectrum.
Yes. And that's a problem. So, like here, I try to say, one thing we don't build, I'm not seeing a lot of like affordable, say like townhomes or small, something for more of the empty nester to move into, right? That is what I would consider more maybe affordable. Median price range around here is what, $370 now, right? Most new construction homes, take Smith Built and D.R. Horton out of it. Most new construction homes are like $500,000 and up.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair.
So, and they're not necessarily building a product that you used to be able to find in these areas. So I'm like, okay, so right now you're raising your family here and you've been here for 10 years and that's hunky dory. But one day you're going to want to downsize from that 3,500 square foot 2-story home, and you're going to have to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which means also you're going to be somewhere else, and then that's where you're going to spend your money and time. So, like, it just messes up the whole cycle. Even more so on the bottom end, we send our our kids to UT to get educated, and then they have to pretty much go somewhere else to live.
Yeah.
I just
or live at home.
Or live at home. I just recently had Drew Burnett, who was just reelected for South Ward Alderman for Farragut here. He grew up, went to Farragut High School. He went to college. He came back, and he's an asset to this community. You want some of that.
Yes.
So if we're constantly fighting new development and not open to new ideas, you mentioned Loudoun County. Correct me if I'm wrong. Loudoun County still doesn't approve PUDs. Like, you can't do a planned unit development.
No, they've actually even gotten worse. They've taken it to where you cannot get a lot less than the lot itself must be a half acre. The lot itself must be a half an acre. The square footage of the lot must be a half an acre if you're going to subdivide and build a home on it.
So what happens when we make laws like rules like that?
Well, what happens is the cost of those lots goes up dramatically. Because everything around development, is based on, quantities, units of things. And most in development, it's the easiest thing to equate it to is linear footage of road. So if a lot must be an acre, and in Loudoun County, the lot must be an acre, and at the building setback line, it must be 100 feet wide. Okay, that's what the current zoning is. Okay, so that means every lot has to have 100 foot of road frontage or more. Okay. Every linear foot of road has a cost, because the cost of asphalt, the cost of curbing, the cost of sidewalks, which are required, the cost of all your utility runs the length of the road. So the wider a lot is, the more expensive that lot is, and the cost to develop has gone up dramatically. So your cost to develop is just much, much higher. We've got a little 13 lot development we're going to be doing right outside of Farragut. It's in Loudoun County. It was, before it was half acre, that was set up for, I think it was 20 lots. Now we're down to 13. Okay. Our lot costs there, as part of our houses that we've got there, will be about $200,000. These aren't lots on the water. They're not lots with a mountain view. They're not, they're not estate lots. They're half-acre lots. They'll be $200,000. Okay, so the house I've got to put on that to justify the $200,000 lot will be at least $600,000 and probably closer to $7,000. Because your lot cost is typically
18 to 20%.
18 to 20% of your. That's very typical industry standard. Is your lot cost is 18 to 20% of your total sell price. So, okay, yes, there are definitely folks that can afford an $800,000 to $1 million house. There's no doubt about that. Okay, but can our kids afford an $800,000 $1 million house?
Well, no.
Can the median income afford $800,000 to $1 million? Can even an average upper middle afford that?
So I don't know anybody in Loudoun government. You do, I don't.
Yeah.
But when I heard that, when I heard that they did away with planned unit developments and they started restricting sizes, and what I heard is we don't really care about our kids are middle or lower class. We don't care about anybody who wants to get a step up with home ownership, because we're now going to force people to build expensive homes only.
Yeah.
And because to a lot of people, while there are plenty of people, yes, that can afford, $800,000 to $1 million homes, the vast majority of people cannot, especially at today's interest rates. So, and no rub on Loudoun County, but last I checked, people moved to Farragut for schools. Like, why do they move to Loudoun County? You're not attracting families now at these prices. I don't understand the disconnect between the people who make the decisions and what they're thinking. Someday somebody's going to say, who kept me from achieving the American dream? And hopefully they point the finger in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're starting to get into politics, and
that's local politics. That's not Democrat or Republican. That's people that are sitting in a spot who, personally, if you ask me, they're not talking to the people who can create the solution. People like you and other developers, if I were in a situation to make a decision, I would be asking, okay, first of all, how many people even know what a planned unit development is? So if you say we're getting rid of it, most people don't understand. I'll let you answer.
And what is it? What does it cost? What does it cost? Development, whatever. What's the
benefit of a PUD, of a planned unit development?
The primary benefit of a PUD is not necessarily that you're going to get more units, although that can be a benefit depending on how the zoning is written. But the primary benefit is that you're able to cluster those units together,
which lowers the cost. So less road frontage per lot is what you're saying. Yes. So more green space potentially.
Yes.
So why would we get rid of that?
That's a good question. The other point that I make with them is, okay, every linear footage of road costs us that much to put in. But if you're trying to hold costs down for the county or the city or the utilities, guess what? Every linear footage of road costs X to maintain too. So when you have to repave that road, if those lots were 50 foot wide instead of 100 foot wide, you just cut your cost in half.
Right.
If the utility has to, sometime in the future, the utility may have to replace the sewer line. So their cost is going to be 50%.
So that's something I think a lot of people don't also understand is when you develop a neighborhood, there's a reason why we hardly have any neighborhoods that have gates, right?
Yeah.
If it's gated, my understanding is you can't just turn it over to the county, but neighborhoods turn over those roads to the county, and then they will then maintain it from that point on. So what you're saying, so people understand there is a way of building where you can cluster the homes so the appearance is more homes per acre. But ultimately, it may not, because it's going to have more green space potentially. It gives more design option, but ultimately it can lower the cost, which can then be also passed on to not only the consumer but to the county.
Yeah, and then you get you gain that green space back. You gain that green space back that can then be a a community park. It could just be trees. It could be whatever. It could be a playground. I mean, you could be whatever you want to be. And the reality of it is, most folks don't want to maintain a big lawn.
No.
They don't want to do it themselves. They don't want to pay somebody to do it. You know, I live in Loudoun County on a Lenore City address myself, and I live in an older subdivision that was developed, I think, in the 70s or 80s. And our lots are relatively small. My lot's narrow. My house is built, lot line, setback line to setback line. It's not a big lot, and I still wish my yard was smaller. Like I don't want a bigger yard. But if you can cluster the homes together, you've saved cost for the buyer of that property. You save the county maintenance costs in the future. You save the utility maintenance costs in the future. You create that green space that everybody wanted in the first place. There's a lot of benefits to it, and it doesn't have to be just to get higher density. But it requires a rethinking of zoning. It requires a rethinking of setbacks and all of those things that are just so kind of ingrained right now at what they are, and it just requires rethinking that. But yeah, we don't, as developers, they don't, the people that are making these decisions, they don't come to us and ask, hey, is there a way that what could we do where you can make a profit and where you can produce but also make a profit and produce homes at a level that folks can afford them, and also that makes the best use of the land. They don't come to us and ask those questions.
And I think that's very short-sighted, because again, we were just talking about how all of these counties are trying to attract businesses, so that obviously you want to employ your current workforce. All right, you want to create a better level of life for the people who are currently there, but you're also going to attract people to move here with those jobs. Places like to come to where their people can live and work all in the same spot.
Yeah,
they don't want them commuting. They want them to stay with them for a long period of time. So if you're not building a product that these people can afford, this is the biggest challenge we have right now. And we're already talking about how the ability to build on a developed lot, has gone down significantly. These things are going to come to a head. And the thing is the more expensive it becomes to build a new home, guess what happens to the resales? They become more expensive.
They go up and up and up.
So the only way we can,
You can't decrease price by constricting supply.
No.
I mean, this is like basic economics. I feel like this is something we probably learned in 7th grade.
Well, I try, there's a lot of people out there that make the housing market very complicated, and it's really not. It is simple supply and demand. If you limit supply and you still have high demand, which we do, what were they talking? Like when we were dealing with COVID, they were saying we're 5 million homes short, right? We haven't built 5 million homes. Like that's not changed.
No.
So if we're short homes, the only thing, what we've done is we've made things more expensive. So we've kind of decreased some of the demand, but those people have to live somewhere. So they move to apartments. Well, now we're building apartments, and nobody wants those.
Nobody wants apartments.
So it's this like tug of war, and it really, really frustrates me. And that's not, again, from my standpoint, yeah, do I make money when we help people buy and sell a home? Yes, right? That is my career. It's what we enjoy doing. It's what we're good at. But these are things like I see people, there's nothing like talking to a young couple who's starting a family. They have good jobs. Unfortunately, they just don't make enough money to actually find a decent home to buy. And that's not what this area was about 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, so I go back to how my brother and I got here. We came here in 2001. and I left some of this out, but I'll tell it now. We lived in a Family Inns of America. We moved here for a number of weeks, and it's a really high class establishment, by the way. And then the only person we knew in Knoxville gave us he rented us out a room above a burnt out. The garage had been burnt out, and he had redone the garage, and it was a 1-bedroom. I mean, it was 1 bedroom over top of a 2-car garage in East Knoxville, across the street from Austin East High School, and we lived over there. I remember we paid him $250 a month for this place, and which was fair to us, and it was probably more than fair to him. But the first duplex we bought was over off of Cedar Lane, and I think we paid 70. I want to say it was like 80,000. It was either 76 or $80,000 for this duplex. And the only way we were able to afford it it had an existing tenant on one side of the duplex, and so we were able to afford it because we had that income coming in from that side, and my brother and I just lived on the other side. It's 2-bedroom, 1 bath on the other side, and that's kind of how we got our start.
The ultimate house hack. That's what everybody wants to do.
Yeah. But I go back to that, and I'm like, okay, and this was in 2001. This is 23 years ago. How would somebody do that today? Is that even feasible today? Is anything along those lines feasible today? As you mentioned earlier, how would a builder get started today? How would somebody get started doing what you do today? And I go back to the very beginning. How would we even make it to Knoxville today? My brother and I, our business, we are in the revenue generation business. Okay. There's no reason for me to go on, tell you how much revenue we generate. How big our businesses are. We're in the revenue generation business. We that's what we do. Okay, we've got a lot. And it's trickle down because we have tons of trade contractors, suppliers, you name it. They're connected to our business. What the revenue generated that's spread across the community from just one home being built is incredible. Okay, and so I think we've been a positive influence on the community. I sure hope that others that know us think the same thing. But today, does somebody like us even get here? Do we even have that opportunity? I don't know. I'm not saying it's dead and that it couldn't be done.
But it's much harder.
But it's much harder. And I think I want to live here because I want it to be a vibrant community, regardless of whether I'm building homes or someday I'll be done building homes, and somebody else will own my company, or our kids will take over or something, and I'll be out of the business. But regardless, I'm still going to live here, and I'm still going to want it to be a vibrant community that's growing, because there's so many areas of the world and in the country that are doing the opposite thing. They're losing population.
Right.
They're not growing. Businesses are being shuttered. Okay. It's almost every day that we hear about another business leaving the state of California.
Yeah.
And big ones.
Big ones.
Not just little bitty ones. Not just, it's big ones. There's a reason why that we sell so many homes to folks coming from California. It's same thing. Look at Illinois. Okay. Same thing there. The state I'm from. There are businesses closing all over Illinois, left and right, and guess what? Those folks are relocating and they're coming down here. And so I don't want to live somewhere where the population is in decline,
right?
And we're not growing. And so I look at it as, could we recreate what we did today? I'm not saying couldn't be done, but I think it would be very, very difficult because we've taken it to the point now. Now you could say, well, but I thought about this before. I was like, well, could you do the opposite? Could you say, well, okay, I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I've gone to school or haven't gone to school, whichever the case may be, and I can't afford to buy a house. I'm just going to move somewhere that's less expensive and start something. Now, I think you'd go that way, okay? And you just make sure you pick the right location. I just think coming to Knoxville and starting something, it's gonna be a little bit tougher deal. Because in the real estate industry, I'm not saying about everything, but in real estate for sure, it's going to be tougher because there's just not that opportunity that there was in our industry.
Well, I'm gonna go back to the 3 things you say everybody needs, the essentials. They need food, water, in housing.
Shelter, yep.
So if again, so one thing that should be a net positive is as we have people move here, or we have people who grow up here, is we should have a sort of an influx of new ideas. Maybe so. Think about
I
this.
sure hope so.
New new design concepts, new architecture, new restaurants, new different things that
Yes.
maybe add to the experience of living here. If those people at a young age move somewhere else because it's more affordable and that's how they can make their start, then we lose out on that opportunity
Yeah.
of experience what they could add to our community. And that is, I understand that may be just the way it is, but it's unfortunate because then what we're left with are only the big box type stuff. We're only left with what works for the masses.
Yeah.
And we lose what could be.
I think the opportunity there is you get to be able to take ideas that have worked other places, and you learn from the people that are moving from those other places and they're doing cool stuff, and you don't have to do all of it. Some of it's not going to make sense, but some of it is going to make sense, and there's no reason that we need to live in 20 years ago or 10 years ago and say, well, I just want to the way it used to be. Well, guess what? It's never going to be the way it used to be.
Never.
Today is not the same as it was yesterday.
And
okay?
let's be honest. It really wasn't that great. If anybody goes back in time, if they really think about all the other stuff, it really wasn't, it just wasn't that great.
No, I mean, there's positives and negatives about everything. People say, well, I'd like to go back to the 80s. Now, I don't know about you. I grew up in a home that didn't have air conditioning. Okay. I didn't think that was that great. I kind of like having air conditioning, I kind of like having so you go back far enough in anybody's lives, in their family lives, and there's gonna be a point where it's like, I don't think it was that great. So, I mean, I'd like to be in a place that's continuing to continuing to move forward. I'm going to give kudos to one of my fellow builders here in Knoxville. Smith Built. They're doing this community called Belltown. Mm-hmm. Now it's been in the news. I mean, they've been run up one side and down the other. But that's a really cool. If anybody would really look at that concept plan and what they plan to do there, with the mixed use, the different housing types, and how they're combining that all together. I mean, it's something that has not really been done in Knoxville. Certainly not at that scale.
They're creating a community.
They're creating a community, and where a lot of the stuff that the folks that are in the community needs, the services and things that they need, are inside the community or right there. And I think that's really cool. And it's not really been done. And yes, they have got. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of the meetings that they went through to get their approvals, and I mean that was a really tough push for them to get that through. And I'm going to tell you, with the next county commission that's coming up, and then we don't know who our next county mayor will be past that, but with the next county commission coming up, I don't know if something like that gets approved. But we need to be thinking outside the box and encouraging stuff like that. Because again, I was just down in Huntsville yesterday, and Huntsville, Alabama is growing like, I mean, it's growing like a weed. I mean, it's just like we are here, except for it's growing faster than we are here.
Right.
I mean, they've got, of course, they got the military stuff, but then they've got Meta's got a massive installation down there, and a number of others have just. Biotech down there is blowing up, and driving around down there, they are doing a ton of mixed use stuff. I mean, just a ton of mixed use stuff, and they're doing all kinds of different housing types. I mean, I saw some 3-story townhomes that were stacked tightly together that would never be approved. Right now in Knox County, would never be approved. Okay, but they're taking up the least amount of land, and they're building something that will be affordable,
right,
for someone to come in and buy, because they're probably, these units were probably 20 feet wide, stacked 3 stories high. Now, is somebody that's got mobility issues going to buy one? No. But is somebody,
there's a market for it.
There's a market for it. Is somebody that's 23, 24 years old or whatever it is, it's 2 or 3 years in their job, that can afford a $350,000 house or $330,000 house or whatever they are, going to buy it? Yeah, they are. Will they stay there forever? No.
But that's how they start the American dream.
That's how they start out, and so they're doing some really cool things down there. I like just going different places and seeing what they're doing, but we need to have different, as you mentioned earlier, we need to have different housing types. We need to encourage some different types of development. And it gets really, that stuff gets, the mixed use stuff, again, going back to, we discussed a little bit earlier about the difficulties in financing. I mean, that gets difficult to finance because there's a lot of unknowns and it's a long tail thing. You're not going to be done in the next 2 years or 3 years. You got tenant build outs and all that kind of stuff. So it takes the community and or, the governmental authority and the developer, working together to kind of make that stuff happen. If anybody is working against each other, that doesn't happen because the cost of it is just too high.
Right. No, I think that's spot on. We definitely need to have a variety of products for people at different stages of life to be able to move into, to be able to buy and take ownership of. It's a shame that we deal with a lot of the things that we do, and I think a lot of it's based on people not understanding the full story. Why are homes at the cost they are? Why are people only building certain things? It's because basically it's placed into a box.
Yep.
I want to kind of move on because we're running kind of long here, but I want to talk about.
And I thought we wouldn't even take up all the time.
I told you, buddy. I said once we start going, you have a current project.
Yes.
That I think is also unique. It's something that we've not really seen around here, but will ultimately help with affordability.
We believe so, yes.
What I thought was cool about it, and I'll let you tell more details. When we first talked about this, you said you thought this would be really a big hit for seniors. And then further conversations, I think this would be a big hit for a whole bunch of people. So will you go ahead and I'm building it up.
Yeah,
so
you're building it up. So I'll try to do it justice. So yes, we have. Let me start with this. The premise of this is that building a first-time home or an affordable home, stick built from the ground up, out in the field, has gotten almost as a detached home has gotten almost impossible from a cost standpoint. Okay. If you start thinking about it, every labor and materials continue to increase, and so and those people all have to make it to the job site. Okay, and there's that slippage in getting folks to a job site, and would they rather the reality of it is rather I'm going to use a plumber for example. If he's plumbing a affordable home, he's going to charge the same per fixture or per bathroom to plumb that as he would a $500,000 home.
Right.
Because it's the same amount of time for him.
Yeah.
Same amount of time and same amount of
his cost is
his cost is stayed the same. Okay. So it really becomes hard to build an affordable home in the field because all of the costs essentially stay the same. You can try to cheapen up materials. You can try to get your cheapen up the when I say cheapen up materials, I mean leave finishes out. Right. Just make the finishes not quite as nice inside. Okay, but that's really all you can do, and there's only so much cutting you can do to do that. And so the premise of this that was, from my standpoint, is as I look forward in the future, I believe that the first time in affordable homes, rather it's somebody moving down, a senior moving down, or somebody starting a family, those homes are going to be built in a factory because that's the most efficient. Almost everything we have that is affordable is built in a factory.
Right.
Okay. I mean this Yeti right here is built in a factory. This phone was built in a factory.
Right.
This water bottle was created in a factory.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody didn't go out in the field and start hammering this stainless steel, in their garage. Okay. So, this thing was made, by multiple hands. Okay. In a factory. And so my premise is that I believe going forward to do something affordable and that can be, it's going to be mass produced in a factory. Now, mass produced in a factory doesn't mean it all has to be the same though. Okay.
Right.
So, how many phones are there if you go in the phone store? There's a whole bunch of different ones.
Right.
And then guess what? You can get different covers and, colors and, I'm simple. I just do black.
Yeah.
But you can go get a pink one or whatever you want to do. So based on that premise, we have partnered up with Clayton. So Clayton's right here in our backyard, and Clayton is very forward thinking about this as well. And so they have a product that we're going to be using, and we're going to be doing that in a development in northeast Knox County. It's off of Harris and Babelay Road, so it's between Washington Pike and Millertown Pike for those of you who are directionally challenged. And it is it is a product where we can buy a product from the Clayton factory, and we can get it in different configurations and we can get it in different color schemes with different finishes, and produce it at a price range around $300,000 for a single family detached 1,600. Well, the base model will be 1,620 square feet with a 2-car garage, nice front porch, nice side or rear porch, and not have lowered the finishes way down. These homes will have tile showers in the master and crown molding throughout. They'll have nice flooring in them. They've got solid wood cabinets, stainless steel appliances. We can, because it's coming, and it's built better because it's in a factory. So these homes will leave the factory zero energy ready. And what that means is at this point in time, that's basically the highest level of energy efficiency that you can produce. To build a zero energy ready home in the field, even at $1 million price tag, is very, very cost prohibitive. It is extremely expensive.
Gotcha.
In a factory, because you're doing everything in a controlled environment, it's a heated and air conditioned environment, with people that are doing the same task every day.
Yeah.
And machines that are doing the same tasks every day, you can build these units super tight. So the cost of purchase is low. Then you have to look at total cost of ownership. I know you guys talk about that with your buyers. You're talking about, okay, what's the total cost of ownership? Because they're looking at, what are my taxes going to be?
Right.
What are my utility bills going to be? What's my payment going to be? What's my insurance going to be? Well, as we all know, utility bills, especially over the last few years, have been going up. So everything about these homes is is geared towards trying to be affordable. And I love the fact that, I love saving. I love the fact that they're going to be able to live comfortably, and not have, and they know what their power bills are going to be. We'll advertise that kind of what their power bills are going to be at, but they're going to be drastically lower than what anybody can produce in the field. And the other cool thing about these homes, and I'll shut up for a second, is the 1,620 square foot home, all of the trash, if you think about the waste that we create in home building, we do create a lot of waste in home building. There's no way around it. It just isn't.
Right.
Okay. But all of the trash from a 1,620 square foot home that comes from the factory will fit in a trash bin that's about 6 feet square, and you can roll it. One man or woman can roll around inside a factory, because again, it's in a factory and they're getting stuff exactly to length, exactly the size that they need, and they're buying a lot of things in bulk, so it's coming in by the container load.
Right.
So I think that's really cool too, because if you're on a, if you're one of those folks that really cares about the planet and what we produce and the energy used to produce it, and then the energy used to cover it up, and we don't use all of it. That's a big initiative, I think, as well.
And so people who listen to how you kind of describe it, this product has a name. It's called a cross mod, correct? Because while the bulk of it will basically be brought to the site, you then finish it on site.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a modular home. It's not a mobile home. It's called a cross mod, completely different product.
Yeah, cross mod that's its trademark name. That's the trademark name that they use. We have come up with our own designs. We have named our collection the Freedom Collection, and I love that name, the Freedom Collection, because it's freedom to move from your apartment. It's freedom to move down from the house that you're in, but still stay in a home and not have to move to an apartment or a condo.
Yeah,
it's freedom to start that American dream or to continue living it. And so I love that name, but we've come up with we've got floor plans, 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom floor plans. We have floor plans with offices, in addition to the 3 or 4 bedrooms. And it's an opportunity to, again, serve that buyer. And I think that there's going to be, again, looking forward, I just feel like that is the way that we're going to be able to produce a detached single. We're always going to be able to do apartments and condos, but if somebody wants a yard, the American dream, I want a yard,
Right.
I want some place for my kids to be able to play.
Fence.
I want the picket fence, and I want that chance at the appreciation that you and I have enjoyed. I certainly have, of the homes that I've had, and I've built, so I have the appreciation. Now I'll sell this house. I'll take my proceeds, go buy another house. That's that's the ability to do that, right off the jump.
And they're going to be able to buy this house for right around $300,000 with conventional financing, just like any other
Yes.
home. That's awesome.
Yeah, and these homes will also qualify for, and you know this better than I do, but they'll qualify for
USDA,
USDA
100% finance.
100% financing in that location, because we're just into the USDA area over there.
So big win, especially for the person who can afford the payment but maybe doesn't have the down payment completely saved up. USDA financing is a great program. That if the product is available, more people take advantage of. So that, I think that's awesome. It's exciting, and I think there's a definite. I know there's a definite need for it, because it's hard to buy a brand new home for $300,000, especially 1,600 square foot.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is it's all on one level. These homes are, no matter whether you get the smaller, the 1,620, or the larger one will be 1,860. The largest model is 1,860. They're all on one level. So, somebody that has maybe some mobility issues or doesn't want to do stairs, you don't have to worry about it, because your traditional first-time home now, everything's upstairs.
Yeah.
You're going upstairs to do the laundry. You're going upstairs to go to go to bed. You're going upstairs to put your kids to bed.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe you don't forget as much as I do, but I forget a lot of stuff. So the second I get upstairs, like, oh crap, I left my water downstairs, or I left my phone downstairs, or I forgot to turn the lights off downstairs, or when my daughter was little, Olivia left her blanket downstairs, or whatever it was. I got to go get this thing for her. So I didn't like doing stairs that much. Maybe it's just me.
I think so. Well, and the cool part about it is, so let's say you're a first time home buyer, and you buy a home such as this. You've now bought a home that is a product that appeals to the masses. So when it comes time to sell it later, it is more advantageous for you, because you'll be able to still appeal to not only maybe potentially another first-time home buyer, but also to, again, somebody who's looking to maybe retire or downsize. There's not a whole lot of people who wouldn't like a ranch-style home. So that's an amazing opportunity for somebody. Man, I think we
exhausted it for now.
I think we've done it. I feel like we could go on for longer, because again, these are a lot of topics that I'm pretty passionate about, and obviously you are too. And I just want to say I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate your time, and I do appreciate what you kind of done for our community, because I know you step out into the schools, and you're a big supporter of the trades, and giving, helping people kind of get that start, or at least showing them that it's possible.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And so again, thank you for being a guest on the pod.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
So if somebody wants to check out a Cook Bros Homes, where's the best place for them to go?
So the best place is just go straight to our website, www.cookbroshomes.com. That's the very best place. So you can go on there, you can check out all of our developments. You can check out stuff that's upcoming. You can check out all of our floor plans. You can find out more about the folks that work there. You can, and then we have a chat feature on our site, so you can chat with somebody if you really want to, or you can put your information in and somebody will call you. It's super low pressure, and we'll talk to you about what we have. We can talk to you about what we have coming up that we know we've got coming up. But yeah, that's the best way to do it. We're also on Facebook and a whole bunch of other social media.
But cookbroshomes.com.
Yeah, if you just go to cookbroshomes.com, you got us.
There you go. Good deal. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap this up again. I'm Eric Whitener, broker owner of the Knox Real Estate Group, and I appreciate you listening to this podcast. If you've gotten any value out of it at all, do me a favor. Whatever platform you're on, like, subscribe, share, comment. Want to hear your feedback, and that's what just keeps me motivated to keep doing these. Man, let's do this again.
We will.
All right. Thank you.